Hello students! For this week, we will be solving equations using addition or subtraction while applying the rules of integers in adding and subtracting. So make sure you remember them. If you don't, make sure you watch my other videos about it. Now, when we say equations, it means that two expressions are equal. Now, remember, when solving equations, we need to apply these two properties of equality: the addition property of equality and the subtraction property of equality. What does that mean? In simple terms, it means that whatever you do on one side of the equation, you do on the other. It means if you have 5 is equal to 5, if you add 2 on one side of the equation, that means you need to add the same number on the other side to keep the equation equal. Now, the same goes for subtraction. So if you have 5 equal to 5, if you subtract 3 on one side of the equation, that means on the other side of the equation, you also subtract 3. So our equation remains equal. Now, after you solved it, to check your solutions, you need to substitute the value of the variable in the original equation. Okay? Then if the equation is true, that means the expressions are both equal on both sides, then your solution or your answer is correct. So before we move on, remember the rules of integers? Just a very quick review. So rules of integers in adding or subtracting. So when you add positive numbers, you add them up and the sign is positive. If you add negatives, you add the magnitude and the sign is a negative. Now, if you add or subtract signs that are different, let's say one is positive and you add a larger magnitude of a negative, that means your answer is a negative, then you subtract. But if your positive is bigger than your negative when adding, you subtract the magnitude and your answer is a positive. So make sure you review the other videos in detail. So let's start with number 1. Solve the equation and then check your solution. Now remember, there's two sides of the equation. Side A, we're in the variable side, and side B. Now, our goal is to isolate the variable, to solve for y. What is y? Now, step 1 is to undo plus 45. So whatever is the other values or other term on the variable side, you have to undo the operation. So for this case, it's plus 45. So what is the opposite of plus 45? What is the inverse operation of addition? Subtraction. So minus 45, and whatever you do on one side, you do on the other side, minus 45. Now, let's solve. So these two are opposites, positive 45 minus 45. Since they're opposites, that becomes 0 or equal to 0. What's left will be your y, equal to. Now, 15 minus 45. Let's apply the rules of adding integers or subtracting integers. So the signs are different. One's a positive, one's a negative. That means what would we do with the magnitude? Exactly, we're going to subtract. Subtract the larger magnitude, so 45 minus 15, that gives us 30. Now, is our answer a positive or a negative? And the answer is a negative because negative 45 has a bigger magnitude and then it has then the sign is negative. So you copy the sign of the bigger magnitude. So that is our solution. Now, it says check your solution. So when you check your solution, you have to substitute the value of the variable into the original equation. So the original equation is y plus 45 is equal to 15. Now, if you substitute, that means negative 30 is the value of y. So that is negative 30 plus 45 is equal to 15. Now, if you simplify, oops, that's not it. I want a highlighter. Oops, highlighter, there you go. If you simplify this terms, negative 30 plus 45, that will give you, signs are different, so you subtract. So 15 is equal to 15, and our solution is correct. Okay, now let's go for number 2. For number 2, it says k minus 12 equals 36. Again, our goal is to isolate the variable. There's two sides of the equation. Don't forget that. Now, we need to undo minus 12. Yep, we need to add 12 to both sides of the equation. So now these two will be opposite, so that's a 0. What's left is k. Now, negative 36 plus 12, are the signs the same? Nope, they're not. One is a positive, one's a negative. So what do? Absolutely, we subtract the magnitude. So 6 minus 2 is 4. 3 minus 1 is 2. Now, is the sign a positive or a negative? And you are right, it is a negative because negative 36 has a bigger magnitude than positive 12. So we copy the sign of the negative 36, which is the negative sign. So the answer is negative 24. K is equal to negative 24. Now let's check. First thing to do is you copy the original equation. The next thing you do is you substitute the value of k. What is k? K is negative 24. So negative 24 minus 12 is equal to negative 36. Now remember, when we subtract integers, we're subtracting is the same thing as adding its opposite. Keep, change, opposite. So negative 24 plus negative 12. So what is negative 24 plus negative 12? If you simplify this expression, would that equal to negative 36? And your answer is yes, you were adding the same sign. So we add the magnitude and copy the sign used. So negative 36 is equal to negative 36. So our answer is correct. Now let's do letter C. Now for letter C, we need to isolate x. Now, x is on the right side of the equation. So we always look at the variable side, okay? So for this case, what do? We need to undo what? Yeah, undo plus 4.3 because on the variable side, we need to keep x by itself. So we need to get rid of plus 4.3 by doing its inverse operation, means opposite operation. So opposite of plus 4.3 is minus 4.3. And apply the property of equality. Whatever you do on one side, you do on the other side. So that should give us 0 here, and that's on the right side because they are opposites. What's left is x is equal to, now these signs are the same. This is the same thing as saying negative 6.4 minus 4.3. So it's similar to adding its opposite, negative 6.4 plus negative 4.3. So the signs are the same. So what do? We add the magnitude, and that would be 4 plus 3 is 7. The decimal point, make sure it's lined up. 6 plus 4 is 10. And we copy the sign that's being used, which is negative a sign. So the answer is x is equal to negative 10.7. So let's check. So guys, remember, please make sure you review your rules of adding integers and subtracting integers. It's very important. So let's copy the original equation. And then let's substitute the value of x that we saw, which was negative 10.7. So x is negative 10.7. And for the rest of the terms, you just copy it down, or copy the other side of the expression of the, there you go. Now, if we were to simplify these two, if we were to simplify these two terms right here, what is negative 10.7 plus 4.3? Now the signs are different. That means we subtract the magnitude. If you subtract the magnitude, would that equal to negative 6.4? We know that the magnitude here we know that the magnitude of 10.7 or negative 10.7 is bigger. That means that the answer will be a negative. Now the signs are different. That means we subtract. So 7 minus 3 is 4 decimal. 10 minus 4 is 6. So our answer is absolutely correct. Now let's try another one. Letter D. So for this case, our variable is on this is on the second term for the left side of the expression. Now there's two sides. Now, what are we undoing? Are we undoing the positive or this negative 10.2? Yes, we are undoing the negative 10.2. So what's the opposite of negative 10.2? A positive 10.2. Whatever you do on one side, you do on the other, a positive 10.2. Why? Because we need to isolate the variable, which is c, keep c by itself. Now, these two are opposites, so that's a 0. What's left is c is equal to. Now, the signs are different. That means we subtract the magnitude. So we subtract the bigger magnitude, 10.2, minus the smaller magnitude, which is minus 8.14. Make sure you line them up, just like what I did. I lined up the decimal point. So make sure in here we can write a 0 as a placeholder. So let's solve. Can you take away 4 from 0? Nope. So 0 becomes a 10, 2 becomes a 1. 10 minus 4 is 6. 1 minus 1 is 0, the decimal point. 10 minus 8, that's going to be 2. So the answer is 2.06. Is the answer positive or negative? It's going to be a positive because 10.2 is a bigger magnitude than the other 8.14. So the answer is a positive 2.06. Now let's check. If we check, we write the original expression or original equation. So negative 10.2 plus c is equal to negative 8.14. Now substitute the value of c, which is 2.06. So negative 10.2 plus 2.06 is equal to negative 8.14. Now let's simplify these two terms. The signs are different, so we subtract. When we subtract them, that would equal to negative 8.14 is equal to negative 8.14. Because the magnitude of negative 10.2 is bigger than the other one, the 2.06, that means our sign is a negative. So our solution is correct. Now let's do letter E, which is a fraction. Now, we have the same steps. There's two sides of the equation. Now, we need to keep a by itself, so get rid of plus 2/3. Yes, we need to do the opposite. So minus 2/3 minus 2/3. Now, these are opposites, so we do know that's a 0. What's left is a. Now, 2 and 1/12, I like it to change it to, I would like to change it to an improper fraction. So 12 times 2 is 24. 24 plus 1 is 25 over 12. And we're subtracting 2/3. We need to make sure that we have the same denominator. And what is the common denominator? Remember, that's 12 and that's 3. Yep, it's going to be 12. Our common denominator is 12. If you skip count 3, you'll get 3, 6, 9, 12. So how many times did we skip count 3 to get 12? 4 times. So whatever you're doing with your denominator, you multiply it in your numerator. So that's going to be 2 times 4 is 8. Remember, we're subtracting, so minus sign, okay? Now, in here, 12 times a number gets you 12, and it's just going to be 1. So that's still the same, 25. Now, are the signs the same? This is a positive 25 minus 8. So what's 25 minus 8? That will give you, yep, 17. So 17, and the denominator stays the same, which is 12. It's a positive because 25 over 12 has a bigger magnitude than negative 8 over 12. So let's change to a mixed number. 17 over 12 is the same thing as 1 over 5 over 12. Exactly. 12 goes into 17 one time. What's the remainder? 5 more. So that is your answer. Now, how do we check a fraction? Now, when we check a fraction, I would personally use the original equation with the improper fraction. So you got a plus 2/3 is equal to 25th over 12. Now, 2 and 1/12 is the same thing as 25th over 12. So what is the value of a? A is 17 over 12. So 17 over 12 plus 2/3 is equal to 25 over 12. Remember, this is the check portion. Oops. This is the check portion. Now, we need to have the same denominator, right? So, and we know the common denominator is 12. Now, 17 stays the same because 12 times 1 gives you 12. 17 times 1 gives you 17. Add, what would you multiply to 3 to get 12? And that's going to be times 4. So the numerator also times 4. 2 times 4 is 8, is equal to 25 over 12. Now what's 17 plus 8? Would that give you 25? Absolutely. So 17 plus 8 will give you 25 over 12, which is equal to 25 over 12. And your answer is absolutely correct. So review your adding fractions as well if you have a hard time doing this, okay? Now, for the next example, we got k minus 1/3 is equal to 5/6. Again, our goal is to isolate k, and there's two sides of the equation. Now, we're going to add 1/3. Whatever you do on one side, you do on the other side. So that's, these two terms are opposite, so that's a 0. What's left is k is equal to, now, we don't have the same denominator, so we need to get the common denominator, which is, what is the common denominator of 6 and 3? And that's going to be 6. Now, what did you multiply to 6 to get 6? Just 1. So that means your numerator is also multiplied by 1. So 5 times 1 is 5. Now, what did you multiply to 3 to get 6? And that's going to be 2. So you also multiply your numerator by 2. So that's going to be 2. And we're adding. 5. So now we have the same denominator, right? So we can add 5 plus 2 is 7 over 6. Or 6 can go into 7 one time with remainder 1, and you keep the denominator as 6. So our answer is 1 and 1/6 or 7/6. Now let's check. You copy the original equation, which is k minus 1/3 is equal to 5 over 6. And what is the value of k? And that is 7/6. I'm going to use the improper fraction. So 7 over 6 minus 1/3 would give you 5 over 6. If you simplify these two terms, you would get, yep, we need to find the common denominator first. So, and we know it's 12. So what would it be? Oh, no, that's 12. We know it's going to be 6. I'm sorry. This should be 6. Okay, we know it's 6. So what did you multiply to 6 to get 6? You multiply by 1. That means 7 is multiplied by 1. So 7. Then the subtraction sign. What did you multiply to 3 to get 6? That's going to be a 2. So multiply your numerator with 2. So 1 times 2 is 2. 7 minus 2. Let's simplify these two terms at the top. Your numerator, let's simplify your numerator. 7 minus 2 is, yep, 5 over 6 is equal to 5 over 6. So our answer is absolutely correct. Now, let's try this next problem. It says, write the word sentence as an equation. So write the word sentence as an equation, then solve. So we need to do two things. First, we need to write the expression of the equation, and then we solve the equation. It doesn't say that we're going to check it. So 5 more than a number y is -2. When you say more than, it means we're adding y to 5, right? So when you say more than, we're adding 5 to y. So it's going to be y plus 5 means equal to -2. Remember, when you see the word than, less than, more than, it's a switch word. That means you're adding 5 from y. So we're adding 5 from y. So now let's solve the equation. Pretty easy. We need to isolate y, so we need to undo plus 5. Yep, we subtract 5 on both sides of the equation. There you go. So that's going to be 0. They're opposites. Y is equal to. Now the signs are the same. What do? Absolutely, add the magnitude, that's going to be 7, and copy the sign of the common term. So your answer is y is equal to -7. Now, if you're wondering why, this is why. -2 minus 5 is the same thing as saying -2 plus -5. So we're adding both negatives, so it's going to be -7. Let's do number 2. The sum the sum of 8 and a number h is 12. So again, the sum means we're adding 8 and the number h. We don't know the number, it's represented by h. The result is 12. So let's isolate h. Let's solve for 8. 8 is a positive. What's its inverse operation? It's going to be minus 8. Whatever you do on one side, you do on the other side. So that's a 0. H is equal to, what's 12 minus 8? And that's going to be, it's going to be 4. So our answer is 4. Done. Last one. Number 3. So we have negative 13 is, so that's the word is, 4 less than a number n. So this means that negative 13 is a result of subtracting 4 from n. So negative 13 is equal to subtracting 4 from n. 4 less than a number n. Again, when you see the word n, it's a switch word. So you need to switch to 4 and the n. So n minus 4, subtract 4 from n. Now, we need to isolate n. So we're solving it. We do the opposite operation, inverse operation. So minus 4 becomes a plus 4. Whatever you do on one side, you do on the other side. Now, these are opposites. That's a 0. What's left is n is equal to. The signs are different. That means we subtract the magnitude. So what's 13 minus 4? It's going to be 9. Now, is it a positive or a negative? It is a negative because negative 13 has a bigger magnitude than a positive 4. So our answer is a negative 9. So hope that helps.